Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Hopping right on into today's content. Today we're going to be ranking some amp sims. These tier ranking videos have been doing so great lately, so that lets me know that you guys would love this type of content, and I'm super stoked, man. And one of the most frequently asked questions in my comment section is, what's my favorite guitar amp sim, or what's the best amp sim for this specific type of necessity with recording and stuff like that. So anyway, man, today's going to be a quick, fun way for me to rank some amp sims, talk about them, give a little blurb on why I like them, why I don't like them, all the above, okay? Feel free to leave your thoughts down below and your favorite amp sims down below in the comment section, and I'll meet you down below and we'll talk all things guitar amp sims. And last but not least, if you're brand new to my channel, be cool, man. Be sure to hit that subscribe button before you leave. I really sincerely appreciate that. A lot of you guys watch this channel but don't subscribe. I don't know why, but I'm trying to rectify that situation here at the end of 2022. So thank you guys so much. With that being said, let's start ranking, all right? So up on your screen right now, boom, we have my tier ranking list. Now we have 16 amp sims down below, and yes, that's not every single amp sim out there on the market, because if I did do that or tried to do that, this video would be like 3 hours long. So with that being said, I'm trying my very best to pick the ones that I like, or the ones that are the most famous, or dare I say infamous, depending on the situation. With that being said, man, there's just 16 here, that's a lot of amp sims to talk about. But if the market's out there and I need to do a part 2, I certainly will. Just like where I'm going to be doing a part 2 on signature guitars, so don't worry on that. But anyway, man, let's orientate you to my tier ranking list. We have God tier, which is the best of the best, the absolute best amp sim in my opinion. Amazing, pretty self-explanatory. Solid is middle of the road for me. Take it or leave it, not the best, not the worst. Not for me for an amp sim is something that I really wouldn't choose as my first, second, third, fourth, or even fifth amp sim, but I could get the job done if I just needed to do something with it, or was in the studio or something like that. And last but not least, pass for an amp sim is just something that really just doesn't inspire me, or I would never really find myself using, and or it just doesn't cater towards the genre of music that I really like, okay? With that being said, let's start ranking. I don't know, dude, let's just go at random, man. Let's start off with the Grantifier from Omega, Ampworks, and Neural DSP, all the way up in amazing. I love the Grantifier, and I love the Omega Ampworks plugin from Neural DSP. I've said it a million times on this channel, but the Iridium / Grantifier, the rebranded Grantifier amplifier in real life, is arguably I can't even speak, arguably my favorite guitar amplifier in real life of all time. And the fact that Neural DSP and Omega Ampworks came together almost 3 years ago now, which is hard to believe, and made that in plugin format. I was super stoked then. I'm so super stoked now, even to this day, almost 3 years later. I love the fact that it has Mick Thompson and V-Man presets in it. It's the closest thing we'll get to a Slipknot plugin for the time being. One could dream that'll happen someday. But regardless, man, those presets are super cool. And, presets aside, it's just a gnarly, rowdy, awesome sounding amp sim, Let's go with Tone Forge Menace, one of the OGs, an outdated plugin in my opinion nowadays. I'm going to put it in not for me. It doesn't sound terrible or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, it's like one of the pioneers of amp sims, you know what I mean? Where JST came out almost a decade ago now, give or take, 7-8 years with Tone Forge Menace. And it was super rad. This is even before I even had a YouTube channel, or was even considering having a YouTube channel. So credit where credit's due. It was one of the trailblazers in this game. But now here in 2022, almost 2023, a bit outdated in my opinion. So I'm going to stick it in not for me. It's a solid amplifier, or amp sim, excuse me, but just not really anything groundbreaking here in 2022, 2023. Let's go with Amped Roots from ML Sound Lab. This version is free. You can get the EVH EL34, and you can get a whole bunch of different amplifiers if you buy it. This is Fluff signature plugin. I'm gonna put it in, you know what, dude, screw it, I'm going God tier. I love the fact that you get the big boy EL34 amplifier for free from ML Sound Lab, and it is in conjunction with Fluff, arguably my favorite guitar player in current day. I love that dude. Yeah, man, it sounds amazing. It's super rad, dude. And Fluff is a connoisseur of tone, and Miko and ML Sound Lab came together right at the beginning of the whole thing that happened in 2020. And I remember when this came out, they're like, you know what, dude, let's give it away for free as a way to boost some spirits. And I thought that was genius, man. It really hit home, and it meant a lot to me and everybody else who plays the guitar. So here, almost 3 years later, I can't believe it's almost been 3 years since this thing's been out as well. Still holds up, man. Now Fluff has a second rendition with ML Sound Lab. But anyway, dude, the OG signature Fluff plugin, I'm putting it in God tier. I love it. Up next, let's go with Mixwave Jason Richardson. Jason Richardson's newest plugin. I'm going to put it in solid. Now, it's in solid because the rhythm tone isn't necessarily my favorite. However, the leads and the cleans are really, really good with this plugin, and that makes sense. I mean, Jason Richardson is a lead player, so it makes sense. So, for me, I'm more or less just like, you know, a down-tuned baritone, chuggy, sludgy riff player. So, leads and cleans aren't exactly, you know, my forte and what I gravitate towards the most. So, I'm just going to stick it in solid. However, if you're predominantly a lead player, I think you would like this plugin a lot more than myself. But just being honest with you and myself, I'm going to stick it in solid. Middle of the road for me. Great plugin, but nothing that I'm like really, really gravitating towards. It's just aight. Up next, we're going to go with Tone Hub from STL Tones. And honestly, everybody, I'm going to put it in not for me. I really don't use Tone Hub all that often from STL Tones. One thing I really just am not a huge fan of is the user experience, the interface itself. It's kind of busy, and it's kind of hard to determine and decipher the different packs and the different artist tones. They all kind of look the same. And if you look at this little tiny screen right here, it's not a very accurate representation of what it looks like. But the plugin itself is just like a big giant long list of all the different packs, and it's just like kind of hard to read, and it's just like, it's kind of busy, you know what I mean? I mean, it sounds great and all that stuff, but there's another plugin that STL Tones is really pushing in more modern times that I think is better for me personally. Tone Hub is just not really anything that I really gravitate towards. Up next, we have a plugin that I've never really specifically covered on this channel, but I found it almost by mistake when I did a collaboration with Slate Digital, and that is the THU plugin. Because of this Randall amp, I'm going to put it all the way up in God tier. If you guys haven't heard of this, again, THU from Slate Digital or in conjunction with Slate Digital, it is so good, man. And I really haven't heard too many people talk about it, but I stumbled on this Randall amplifier by mistake, and it is absolutely amazing sounding. It sounds so heavy and so gnarly, and it is just so beautiful sounding. Like I said, man, it's kind of like a sleeper, but I kind of want to give some praise and some props with this amp sim. I really, really love it, and I think you guys should check it out, okay? Let's go with some of the archetypes here. We got a couple archetypes here. I'm going to go with the archetype Abasi. I'm going to stick it... Honestly, guys, I'm going to stick it in pass. And the reason being is because for a while there, the archetypes from Neural DSP were really starting to get redundant and repetitive and kind of like just renamed and rebranded things. Meaning it was just like a shreddy, proggy rock metal dude with a signature amp sim. And it was just like a Plini, an Anali, and an Abasi, a Rabia, a Petrucci, a Tim Henson. Like they're all kind of the same genre, you know what I mean? And for me, the Abasi, I mean, they all sound great. Neural DSP, makes amazing products. But for me, there's a lot of low end built up with the Abasi, and from the rhythm section, a lot of built up low end. And apart from like, I don't know, it just really doesn't do anything like extravagant or special. It has great cleans, great leads, great rhythm sounds, but nothing that really stands out for me. So out of all the abundance of amp sims out there, the Abasi just wasn't anything that I really gravitate towards. And the more and more as time goes on, the less and less I use it. So I bought it myself years ago when it first came out, but here in 2022, almost 2023, I really don't use it at all. So just going to put it in pass for right now. Let's go with Will Putney's plugin from STL Tones. It's either solid or amazing for me. Here, I'll be honest, I'll put it in solid. As time goes on, I use it less and less because there's two other amp sims from STL Tones that I use more. But with that being said, this is one of the pioneers of like where amp sims became really, really, really good. I mean, this amp sim's almost 4 years old now. It came out in like the beginning to middle of 2019. So things have certainly advanced since then. But this was one of the first amp sims for me personally. Like when it came out, I was like, all right, here we go. Like things are starting to get really, really awesome sounding. There's one preset that I use to this day from Will Putney's plugin suite. It's in his album tones, number 16. It's called Evergreen, I believe. Dude, the Diesel VH4 with that IR is just absolutely disgusting sounding in the best way possible. You guys should check it out if you haven't yet. But apart from that one preset, which is just a very specific and gnarly sound, I don't really use this amp sim all too often, every now and again, but for a high gain metal, guitar player, it's pretty awesome, man. So it definitely belongs in solid, and that may even be a little bit of a disservice, but just being honest, solid is not a negative description. It's awesome, but you know, it's been out for a while, so maybe like, I don't know, I just don't use it as much, you know what I mean? But I love it all the same. Up next, Tone Forge Jason Richardson from JST. I'm gonna put it in pass. I tried this once 4.5, almost 5 years ago now whenever I got it, and I really just didn't like it at all. It sounds okay. The cleans are good, but the rhythm sounds and the lead sounds just don't really sound all that well for me personally. This is an old plugin now, and I think the mixed wave one from Jason Richardson, or the Jason Richardson mixed wave amp sim, is exponentially better than this one. Let's go with a new one. Let's go with Omnis from Positive Grid and/or Bias Effects. I'm gonna put it all the way up in amazing. I love this one because of how unique it sounds. It sounds like a Neural DSP plugin that came out relatively recently. Just coincidence, I think. But I love how it's got that futuristic kind of like Blade Runner, I don't know, Escape from New York. I don't know, like that futuristic type of sound, that futuristic type of sci-fi soundtrack. And I love that, mix that with the heavy tones and all that stuff. I did a video on it just over a month ago if you guys want to check it out. But yeah, Positive Grid did something really cool with Omnis. It's not just your run-of-the-mill metal plugin. It's got some unique synth sounds, and I love that. My favorite amp sim of all time, STL Tones Tonality Andy James God Tier. I use this one all the time, man. I still think this is the one that I use the most frequently, either for like my Instagram Reels or my TikToks or my YouTube Shorts. Like if I just need a quick tone, I always go with STL Tones' Tonality Andy James for two reasons. One, obviously it sounds amazing, both rhythm sounds and lead sounds. The AC30 cleans aren't really my favorite, but the rhythm sound especially, man, just sounds so gnarly, so rich, so pure, and I love it, dude. Yeah, another reason too why I use it is because it just never crashes, ever. It just never ever crashes. Always reliable, never eats up any CPU and just makes Logic crash or anything like that. So I've never had a problem with it, knock on wood. But yeah, man, it's my favorite one of all time, I think. And if not my favorite, definitely the one I use the most. All right, dude, 5 to go. Let's wrap it up here, man. We got a pretty even spread across here on all my tiers. Let's see if I can shake things up a bit here. Let's go Rabea Archetype. Boom, amazing, just because of the synth sound. Kind of like what I was saying with the archetypes, they're all kind of similar, and it was just nice that the Rabea at least had something kind of way different than all the other ones, and that is like that really kind of crazy synth that I'm still trying to figure out how to use it to this day. It's just something that like I got to spend a lot of time learning, but I like that, man, you know what I mean? Like, I think amp sims can be a bit limiting and kind of like, you kind of figure it out within like the first couple hours, but like, the Archetype Rabea, it takes some time to get used to, and I like that in the sense that plugins are generally kind of just like plug and play, but this one you actually have to learn it. And for better or for worse, I like that, you know what I mean? That just means the tweakability and the options are available to the player. So for that alone, I really like it. Not to mention all the other tones available are really, really great as well, but that synth, man, that's something really special. So I'm going to put it in amazing. Archetype Petrucci. You know what, guys? I gotta put it in pass. I just gotta put it in pass. It's just like, it sounds like the Abasi to me. Just being honest, man. It's awesome. It's really cool. It looks beautiful. But if it wasn't for the transpose knob, I would just say it's like just like everything else. You know what I mean? It has a tuner and a metronome and, you know, a down tuner and all that stuff, which is really cool. But I don't know, man. I just think Neural DSP just kind of just like oversaturated their own market and just made a lot of like prog rock shred amp sims, and they did that like 4 or 5 times in a row. So when the Archetype Petrucci came out, by the time that came out, I was just like, oh, all right, like another one. And I was bummed because had the Petrucci come out like, I don't know, 3-4 years prior, everybody would be like, this is the best of all time. But they kind of like, I don't know, it just was competing with its own self with Neural DSP. So I tried it and I just really never used it, and I really don't see any use for it for me personally. JST Toneforge Mishra Mansour Pass. What's interesting about the Toneforge Mishra Mansour is it's not even on the JST website anymore. I'm not really sure what happened with this one, but yeah, I just remember the rhythm section just wasn't for me, and the leads and anything like that just didn't do it for me. The cleans were okay, but you know, this is an amp sim that just, I don't know, I never really gelled with. And you know, now it's not even available for purchase. I don't even know where it went, you know what I mean? 2 to go. Let's stay in JST land. Let's redeem it here. Let's put the Toneforge Jeff Loomis. You know what, dude? I'm going to put it in God tier. That EVH is gnarly sounding. That thing is awesome. I use the Tone Forge Jeff Loomis quite frequently, and I think it's by far the best amp sim that JST ever created. And Jeff Loomis, obviously an amazing player, a great ear for tone and all that, man. So I use this one quite frequently. It does everything very, very well. Does the spooky vibes very, very well, like the ambient background stuff, like the layered background stuff, very, very well. Match that with the awesome high gain tones and everything in between. It's a really, really great amp sim, and this one like destroys all the other JST amp sims in my opinion. And last but not least, not necessarily my favorite amp sim from STL Tones, but one that is really cool and really unique, and that is AmpHub. Belongs in God tier because it's an ever-growing world. I said this in, I don't know, a video maybe about a year ago now, but the thing I love about AmpHub the most is you have the ability to build your own digital rig, and that is something unique to plugins, where plugins and amp sims and archetypes and tonalities and all these, you know, buzzwords with all these plugins, when you buy it, you get what you get and that's it, with maybe a few updates every so often. But with AmpHub, it's a subscription service where like you can buy pedals and buy cabinets and buy amplifiers and buy rack gear and stuff like that, and you can digitally build a really specific digital virtual rig. And it's not like just a little bit of a gimmick. Like you can buy like a precision drive, you can buy a Boss HM2, you can buy like a whole bunch of amplifiers, like real world stuff. So I think for that alone, it separates itself from the pack, and I love that so much about AmpHub. So for me, that belongs in God tier. So everybody, I did it. Another tier ranking in the books. What do you guys think of my thoughts and opinions? Leave them down below. As I always say with these videos, this is all in good fun, man. Ain't trying to trigger anybody with my opinions. And if you get offended by my opinions on amp sims, you got some problems. But anyway, dude, with that being said, man, thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, dude. I thank you so much in advance for doing so. With that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay metal. See you guys next time. Later.